occurs based on pressure and concentration gradient. It occurs based on pressure and concentration gradient. Pressure and concentration gradient. So pressure and concentration gradient that is present in the inhaled gas and alveoli and blood. Because of this pressure gradient, exchange of gases basically occurs. Okay. Solubility of the gases, okay, as well as the thick membrane or thin membranes. Okay. Basically thin membrane cannot involved in the exchange of gases, whereas if you take a thick membrane that is responsible for or involved in diffusion of some important gases. And there are some other important factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. What are they? Let us see. If you see carefully, here the diagram given is the alveoli. You can see here this is a blood capillary. Okay, you can see here the RBC. This is the alveoli. Okay, you can see the endothelium here and the various associated structures of the alveoli. Now here you can see the arrow marks indicates this is inhalation of gas, this is exhalation of gas. Now partial pressure. What is partial pressure? I will tell you later. What is partial pressure? Let me define what is partial pressure. Let us take the mixture of gases. Let us take mixture of gases. In the mixture of gases, individual gas and its pressure is called partial pressure. Let us take the respiratory gases like CO2 and O2. Let us start with O2, which is present in the inhaled gas. Atmospheric pressure, generally it has 159 mm Hg. Alveoli, it has 104 mm Hg. Inside the alveoli, the oxygen partial pressure is 104 mm Hg. Okay. In the deoxygenated blood, the partial pressure of O2 is 40 mm Hg. Okay, no need to confuse. The deoxygenated blood also contains little amount of oxygen. Whereas if you take the oxygenated blood which contain oxygen and its partial pressure will be 95 mm Hg. Inside the tissues, oxygen has 40 partial pressure. Now let us see the consequences of CO2 as a result of this. CO2 respiratory gas, it contains atmospheric pressure as 0.3. Okay. Alveoli has 40 mm Hg. Deoxygenated blood has 45 mm Hg. Oxygenated blood has 40 mm Hg. Inside the tissue it will be 45. These partial pressures are very much important for examination point of view. Okay. So oxygen partial pressure, CO2 partial pressure in the atmosphere, alveoli, blood, oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood and inside the tissues. What will be the partial pressures? We have to put it in our minds. Continuation. So I already defined what is partial pressure. Okay. The partial pressure of oxygen represented by PO2 like this. Partial pressure of CO2 represented by PCO2 for carbon dioxide. In case of partial pressure for the two gases in the atmospheric air, okay, the two sides of diffusion, okay. Now here we have a tabular formula, already I have shown you how these partial pressures are and their gradients are variable from oxygen to carbon dioxide. Okay. For oxygen, partial pressure which is measured by mmHg, the partial pressure of oxygen in the air nothing but atmosphere inside the alveoli, inside the oxygenated blood, inside the deoxygenated blood. It greatly varies. Partial pressure, it defines the characteristic feature of a particular gas. Okay. So finally, if you see, a gradient is present for CO2 in the opposite direction. I already shown in that table. As the solubility of CO2, if you take the solubility of CO2, 20 to 25 times higher than that of oxygen. Partial pressure we have seen. If you take the solubility, what is that? Solubility. The solubility of carbon dioxide is very much higher compared with the oxygen. Okay. So CO2 that can diffuse through diffusion membrane per unit difference. Why? Because squamous epithelium plays an important role in the process of diffusion of gases. Squamous epithelium of alveoli. Second one, endothelium of alveoli. Okay, and the basement membrane of alveoli, plays an important role in the diffusion process. Okay, now these three layers are there. These three major layers are there around the diffusion membrane. That diffusion membrane that is present below the alveolar cavity. However, its total thickness is much less than a millimeter. But if you take the total thickness, it is less than a millimeter. Therefore, all the factors of our body, if you take all factors of our body, which are favorable for diffusion of O2 from alveoli to tissue, okay, that of CO2 from tissues to alveoli. So diffusion of O2 from alveoli to tissues, why? Because during inhalation only oxygen can enter into the tissues from the alveoli. During exhalation, CO2 can exhale from the tissues to alveoli. Okay, now? Finally, this is the diagrammatic systematic view of entry of various gases and exit of carbon dioxide from the various structures. You can see here, this is the heart. This is the left side of the heart. This is right side of the heart. Okay. Now in this case, you can see inspired air or expired air here. Alveolar air, PO2, that is 104 mm Hg, PCO2 40 mm Hg, and alveolus. Systematic veins, you can see here, systematic arteries which carry the deoxygenated blood and the oxygenated blood respectively. PO2 40 mm Hg here, PCO2 45 mm Hg. Okay, now? In the similar manner, inside the oxygenated blood, the partial pressure of oxygen is 95 mm Hg, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40 mm Hg. Okay.